We all know this sensory endurance test. It's the endless quacking of animated ducks, or hearing bingo spelled out for the 50th time. But look at the child holding the screen. They are unblinking. Their eyes track the motion with absolute unbroken captivation. Dismissing these compilations as cheap pacifiers ignores the specific neurological task occurring during this lock-on effect. The level of focus suggests the infant brain is performing a task that the adult brain no longer needs to prioritize. The repetitive source material functions as a cognitive algorithm. It delivers the specific inputs required to boot up a new human brain. Take a sequence like Old MacDonald or the Animal Dance. To an adult, it is a monotonous string of oinks and moos. To an infant, it is an exercise in phonetic mapping. This visualization shows how that mapping works. Before a child can parse complex grammar, they have to master the basics of sound association. The brain takes a specific visual symbol and merges it with a distinct, highly exaggerated auditory input. Doing this once is not enough. The relentless repetition, the quack-quack here and the moo-moo there, forces the brain to create and solidify its very first database entries for processing what it sees and hears. These animal sounds operate as the raw data entry required to lay down the physical neural architecture for language acquisition. Once those basic phonetic associations are built, the media introduces an advanced cognitive stress test, the spelling song, bingo. This sequence of blocks illustrates the mechanics of sequential omission. The song establishes a known data point, 5 letters. Then it drops a letter, replacing it with a rhythmic placeholder like a clap or a beep. As the progress bar scans across the sequence, it highlights a process called active recall. To maintain the logic of the song, the child's brain is forced to hold that missing variable in its working memory to retrieve it at the exact moment it is needed. In the next verse, 2 letters disappear, then 3. This progressive loss of subsequent letters systematically increases the cognitive load placed on the child. The child must keep the rhythm, remember the missing letter, sing the remaining letters, and anticipate the next drop. The structure of bingo operates as a high-intensity interval training routine, engineered specifically to expand a child's short-term memory capacity. That same structural rigor applies to counting rhymes, like 5 little ducks and 5 speckled frogs, which serve as an early introduction to subtractive math. Underneath the playful animation, this cyclical flowchart reveals a rigid algorithmic loop. You establish a baseline of 5 ducks. You introduce a variable where 1 duck wanders over the hill, removing an asset. Then you calculate the new baseline of 4. Because this loop repeats predictably, the brain learns to anticipate the subtractive outcome before the mother duck even finishes quacking the answer. There is another psychological layer at work here, object permanence. This is triggered by the mother duck continuously calling out for her missing offspring. Looking at this timeline, the mother duck is a constant, while the dotted lines represent the ducklings dipping out of perception. When every duck finally reappears at the end of the song, it teaches the infant that entities continue to exist in the physical world, even when they are temporarily removed from immediate sight. These counting rhymes provide the infant's first mental model for temporal logic and the predictable subtraction of physical objects. Once the baseline cognitive architectures for phonetics, memory, and math are laid down, the media shifts its focus. It moves from building the hardware to uploading the social protocols. A segment like The Ant and the Grasshopper acts as a safe conceptual simulation. It models the consequences of resource management and the necessity of delayed gratification without any real-world risk. We see this exact mechanism in the explicit repetition of phrases in please and thank you songs, which provide the foundational coding for human empathy and social cohesion. Even the narrative instructions on how to gently pet Jellybean the hamster, waiting to see if she is happy before touching her, translate directly to the early development of emotional intelligence and physical boundaries. These instructional songs and morality tales serve as low-stakes virtual simulations, preparing a developing child for the complexities of human integration and survival. Look back at that exhausted parent, sitting in the dark while the tablet loops the same 3 notes. The perception of relentless loops like hickory-dickory-dock shifts from auditory annoyance to an observation of active biological engineering. Behind the child's screen-lit face, neurons are firing and branching, locking together to form the physical structure of the mind. The repetitive earworm represents the mechanical sound of human intelligence compiling its foundational code.